Welcome in, fans, to another episode of the Two Line Pass podcast. I'm your host, Randon. Here with me, as always, is Dustin. Ryan is out day to day with an upper body injury. Dustin, how you feeling tonight?
Elvis is dead. Jim Morrison is dead. Michael Jackson is dead. I myself also feel not good. So we're going to get through it, though. We're going
I
to
think
get through
we're
it.
all a little dead inside. Well, I don't want to overreact. I don't want to have any knee-jerk reactions, and I don't want to completely panic. Or do I? Because I really do want to do all three of those things. It was not a great start to the Mammoth season. We dropped the game to Colorado, which we kind of knew was going to happen, right? Like, we didn't know, but we knew. We do beat Nashville in overtime, and then an extremely disappointing loss to the Chicago Blackhawks. Dustin, let's open up with what is on everybody's mind. How worried should we be as Utah Mammoth fans?
Getting off to a start like this, it's not the end of the world that you only get the 2 points coming out of those 3 games. Like, you can come back from that. We're only 3 games into an 82-game season. It's okay from that standpoint, but also, like, we've talked about this before, and I'm going to bring it up again. Like, we have these next 3 games that are winnable. We have a game against Calgary, who we went undefeated against last season. Then we have San Jose and we have Boston. Like, those are winnable games. And then we start just a murderer's row of games where you go Colorado, St. Louis, Minnesota, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Toronto. And there's only one bad team in that stretch of games, and that's going to be at a point where if you're still struggling through that stretch, then the front office really needs to take a look in the mirror and say, is Coach Turney really the coach that's going to take us to, like, take that next step? We talked about it in the last episode, how this is when Utah takes the next step, right? Like, last year Utah played well against Colorado. They really did. But that's still a loss. And I tweeted after that game, like, last year was the season for, like, all right, Colorado's one of the better teams in the league. We held our own. Like, all right, that gives us some confidence that, like, that feels good to play against the best teams in the league and hold our own. But that was last year. This isn't the year for, we were almost there. We gave them a run for their money. We're Paul Walker at the end of saying, I almost had you. This year we're Vin Diesel saying winning is winning. You have to win. And then you go on to Nashville and you sort of escape with a win in that game. You're trailing 2-1 with 9 minutes left before McBain gets that put back. And that's how close we are to having this conversation with Utah having 0 points on the season, right? Like, we were 9 minutes away from having no points through the first 3 games. And I mean, not even that, but you have, if it weren't for Stenlund being so good at faceoffs and winning a faceoff against Stamkos in the overtime period that gave Utah possession, because in overtime, possession is everything. Like, if Stenlund doesn't win that, maybe we only have 1 point at this point of the season. Like, it's not troubling from the standpoint of, like, you can rebound from this, you can rebuild from this point, but it's taking the wrong step forward when we're going to hit this stretch that's, for as early in the season as it is, it's almost season defining. And that's going to be a point where you look at Edmonton a couple of years ago, where they fired their coach midseason and wound up going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, is that what Utah has to do to get to the next step? Because if we're sitting here October 28th and we're still in single digits worth of points at that point of the season, like, something's going to have to change. So maybe it's not time to hit the panic button yet, but it's like, we're on a threat level watch. Like, we at least have to be cognizant of what's going on and the future of this team.
Absolutely. And you bring up, and we talked about it last episode, about the future schedule. We've got a couple of winnable games. We say these winnable games, right? Winnable games where at this point in this team's position every game should be winnable, but it doesn't feel that way, especially after watching these last three. But you've only got a couple of truly winnable games, and then it's really, really tough. And then you're going to feel like you're stealing games. And then I'm looking at even we play Buffalo twice in November, which thank God for that. But November's schedule, even outside the first week, is not an easy schedule. Like we have a really tough schedule. And you look at, like you brought up the Edmonton Oilers, who are on the way outside looking in 2 years ago, and everyone's looking what is going wrong in Edmonton, and then they right the ship, right? But Edmonton has the two best players on the planet, at least one of the best, right, in Connor McDavid. And then you can argue that Draisaitl is in the top 5 somewhere, right? Does Utah have that? No. But we do have Dylan Guenther, and that's good. And that's one thing that I want to panic about, is because I'm looking at the bright spots of these 3 games. And right now, the bright spot is Dylan Guenther. He has absolutely been the best player on the ice consistently. 2 goals, 2 assists, leads the team in points. His line overall, Cooley and Peterka both got their first goals of the season. And that line seems to be good. But then there's also parts of it where Cooley and Peterka seem nowhere to be found. And you're wondering, like, production-wise, that line is doing well, especially the Guenther side of it. But then after that, it's not good, right? Vejmelka's your next brightest spot, and he's only gotten to start 2 games. He got benched for Vanecek.
We talked about that in the first episode. Like, how is he going to handle this goalie rotation? Is he going to give Veggie 4 or 5 starts for every Vanecek start? And he got 2. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't even playing poorly. Like, he held Colorado to 2 goals and Nashville to 2 goals. Like, and his save percentage is right around 90%, I believe. And then you make the switch to Vanecek, and he gives up 2 goals on 12 shots. Like, we were talking about this a little bit in the pre-podcast, where we're kind of talking about what to talk in the episode. There are a lot of teams in the NHL who have already started their backup goalie, who have already given their starter a rest. Some of the biggest names have started all of their games. Ottinger starting his 4th game tonight, I believe, and Bobrovsky has started all their games. But a lot of the teams in the league have started their backup. And if you want to tell me that we're going to run Vanecek out there because Chicago's more winnable and we want to have Veggie at home for Calgary, I can buy into that. I'm not going to freak out too much about the goalie rotation being 2-1, because I can see some of the logic there. But if this continues throughout the season where it's 2 starts to every 1, that's another issue. And that's why I believe, and I don't want Tourigny to get fired. I want to like make that crystal clear. I'm not on here advocating for him to get fired because I want him to get fired. I want this team to be as successful as possible, so that at the end of the season we're saying, thank God we didn't overreact, and thank God we held on to Tourigny. But it's getting to a point. He's had 4 seasons. He's in his 5th season. He's never finished better than I believe it's 6th in the division, and something has to change. You have to prove that you can take that step from rebuilding a team to turning them into a contender, because there are coaches who are really good at rebuilding them, but can't get them over the next step, can't get them over that next hurdle. And he has to prove that he's that guy. And if this is a playoff or bust season, we can't get through October struggling without making a change.
No, absolutely not. And Veggie's played great. Like I said, he's got .92 and his 1.99 goals against average. Statistically great with the win in there, especially with how bad this offense has been. This offense is, I don't want to use the word historic, but let's look in the context of this season, right? There's only one team offensively worse than us, and that's the Buffalo Sabres, who are right now the absolute worst team in the league. You don't even want to be mentioned in the same conversation as the Buffalo Sabres. The next team that would be as bad as us is the Calgary Flames. So it's one of those things where a lot of teams may be doing it. I just don't like it. And maybe it's because it's so early in the season that you can get away with it. But we talked about consistency, right? And especially a goalie like Vejmelka, he needs that consistency. And when you break it up, how I worry we're going to go into the home opener, and this is the one Calgary gets back. Calgary, is not a great team, but they're right with us towards the bottom of the standings right now. And again, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves and say that, all is lost. Let's tank for McKenna and fire Turney, even though I do want to fire him, but it's just a harbinger for what's to come. And then when we're in November, and we're well out of the playoff picture in November, right? You can't make the playoffs in November, but you can get a good look at it. And one thing this team struggled with was win streaks. And if you put yourself in a position where you need to start winning 4, 5, 6 games in a row consistently to even get back into it, that's not where this team is meant to be. And that's where I worry about Turney and talking about him, focusing the conversation now on him. His post-game press conference, they were talking about, what do you need to do? What do we need to do? And he threw out the term that he throws out a few times. He loves these terms. Greasy goals. Yep.
You have to score the greasy goals.
The greasy goals. We're not a greasy team. I went back and they were looking at it when we had that offensive output over the first 3 games was like 14 goals last season. There's one that you might consider a greasy goal. Maybe am I old and I don't understand what a greasy goal is? But I think that's like you've got a scrum in front of the net and you put back multiple rebounds or something like that, right? That's a greasy goal.
Goals is exact. I mean, I've made a reference to it a whole lot, but like the putting in the trash in the Mighty Ducks movie, right? Like that's the greasy goals. But like you can't build your offense around, you throw the puck there and try to score a greasy goal. Like you can't build your offense around that. Like the power play, we haven't mentioned that. We're 1 out of 10 on the power play, by the way. 10% would have been by at least 4 percentage points dead last in the league last season. Like 10% is not acceptable. There's not a huge difference because I think we were in the top 10 in the power play last season, and it was like 26%.
I think we were exactly
somewhere right
10th.
around there.
I think we were exactly 10th.
Yeah, but we were, if I remember correctly, right around 25 or 26%. So like, it's granted at this point of the season we've had so few power plays, it's the difference between 1 goal or 2. So it's not a huge difference. But if that trend continues, it's going to turn into a shit ton of goals if you're only scoring 10% versus 25. And the thing about it is like there haven't been that many opportunities generated on the power play. There haven't been a whole lot of like, where you're sitting on the couch at home and you're watching, you kind of like jump up because it looks like, we almost had that one. And like that, although I will say is that gives me some hope about the future of the offense of this team, because especially in the second period the other day against Chicago, there were a handful of those like, kind of moments. But right there at the end, like I sent a tweet from the podcast Twitter about how it was just a microcosm of the period, that you have Clayton Keller with the puck right in the middle and he tries to pass it over to Cooley and Cooley gets kind of tied up and we don't even get a shot on goal. Like we had a perfect scoring opportunity present itself and it doesn't even wind up as a shot on goal. You have to be able to maintain and produce an offense that scores without having to rely on you. Well, go out there and play with some effort and try to put in some greasy goals. Like to me, that's not coaching. And I don't know what the answer is. I think one of the things they mentioned, our home broadcast team mentioned during the Chicago game, was comparing Sergachev to Makar from Colorado. Last season, Sergachev took almost 200 fewer shots than Makar. If you want to be the team that's like, okay, go out there and put in some greasy goals, put it on net and then try to poke it in, have him shoot from the blue line. They made the point, like, there's no more open net, there's no more room to shoot at than from straight on the from the blue line. Like, if you want to be the team that scores greasy goals, tell him to shoot from the blue line and try to put in some greasy goals. Like it seems like almost like his coaching that he's doing on the ice and in practice doesn't match up with what he's saying in the post game. Like he's not having his team put shots on goal and then try to put in greasy goals. But then after the game, he's talking about, well, you got to score those greasy goals. That's what you got to do. Like, then coach them that way.
Yep.
Like, it's madness.
He doesn't have the personnel either, in my opinion. Like, we are one of the smaller teams in the league, right? And so you've got Jack McBain, who's capable of scoring those greasy goals. Barrett Hayton has played in front of the net a lot, but he's playing hurt. And he wasn't, I don't want to say he's playing hurt, but he's coming off an injury, right? And he wasn't a very big net front presence. And then we're talking about scheme, especially the power play. Now, you know me, everybody knows me. I'm a perennial Nick Schmaltz defender. But everybody sees on power play unit 1, Nick Schmaltz is not a center except for on the power play. And the system that they run doesn't have him sit in front of the goalie you might expect screening him. It has him between the 4 penalty kill defenders. Now, what this does is this opens up a lot of passing lanes, and then we get that one-timer to Gunther, which is basically our bread and butter on the power play, right? But what I'm seeing is Nick Schmaltz finally taking shots from that location. Now they're not going in. He's got to put them away, right? I want him to take more shots. I want to check on it, but I think he may lead the team in shots without a goal.
I know he was leading the team in shots against Chicago.
And I want to see one go in, right? But he's not exactly a natural goal scorer. But if you're Andre Turney and you're saying, I need greasy goals, like, don't run that power play that way then. Like, have Nick Schmaltz or Logan Cooley sit in front of the net, park in front of the net, get screens in front of the net. I didn't see too many screens in front of the net, and you're not going to get greasy goals if you don't have a guy in front of the net. And so he's talking about, oh, well, we need to get those. But his system doesn't put them in the position to get those goals. So it's like, I'm wondering, is the team just not playing Turney's style? And is that what he's upset about? Or is he just hoping that he throws out a buzzword like greasy goals and the team says, yes, the greasy goal. You got it, coach.
I do have something that might be an area of concern, and I'll ask you what you think through 3 games. So Dylan Gunther leads the team in shots. He has 13. And then Nick Schmaltz has 10. Jack McBain is third with 8 shots on goal. And then the rest of the 3 of the top 6 after that, you have defensemen. You have Sergachev, Simashev, and Schmidt. And then Peterka. Cooley and Keller both only have 4. Like, through 3 games, both Cooley and Keller only have 4 shots. And now, I don't know if that's because both of them are seeming to do, like, when they have a shot, they're trying to make the extra pass. You know, they're doing exactly what we talked about at the end of the period against Chicago, where Keller has a lane for a shot and he's right there in front and he tries to make that extra pass. And this was something they did last year, where they're not trying to take a good shot, they're trying to be unselfish and get a great one, and it's more than often it's not paying off. But is it a problem that Cooley and Keller only have 4 shots and that 3 of our top 6 are defensemen?
It's incredibly concerning that they have that few shots. Like, I'm fine with defensemen throwing pucks on net. Like, I'm fine with that. But let's put all our cards on the table here, guys. Clayton Keller is the best player on this team. Dylan Gunther is currently playing the best, but overall, Clayton Keller is the best player on the team. He's the most important player on this team. And through 3 games, he has been virtually non-existent. With the exception of the assist on Gunther's goal, he has been nowhere to be seen. Like you said, he's passing up perfect opportunities. The chemistry that Schmaltz and Keller seem to have had last season and in previous seasons seems entirely gone. I can't tell you how many times, and again, Schmaltz gets shit on for it, but Schmaltz makes the pass to Keller, a pass that they've made hundreds of times before, and Keller misses, and it leads to a turnover. Like, that's
Which is
just unacceptable. You can't do
right?
it now.
Usually it's Schmaltz that's fanning on those shots.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's Keller who can't even collect a pass. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that Gunther, Cooley, and Peterka are on a line and Keller feels slighted by this, or maybe Keller was expecting all offseason to still play with Gunther and Cooley, because that was kind of what the projection was, right? It wasn't until late into training camp that the Gunther, Cooley, Peterka line really established itself as like, that was going to be a line. I think Keller thought he was going to be on a line with Cooley and Gunther. And now having to adjust, having played with McBain and now get to play with the Haight in the center, like, he just seems like he hasn't found his footing, and he's a player that you absolutely need to have finding his He needs to be the rock through this storm. And if he's not, we're sunk.
I was going to ask you, do you think there's an impact in the fact that McBain was the center on that line for the first 2 games, and then Hayton comes back and now he's the center for that line? Like, is that change going to throw stuff off?
It might. I mean, we look at it. Remember when Kerfoot was the first line center, and we love Kerfoot, right? I got my Kerfoot jersey is en route, right? I'm going to proudly wear the Kerfoot jersey. Love the guy. One of the most versatile players on the team. He is not a first line center at all. Not even close. And McBain showed that he's not exactly a first line center.
That third line of McBain and Krause and Tanev be the line that comes in and they can play rough and they can hit and they can try and just and they can play that way. That gives you two different styles that you can play, and that's the kind of line that can score you greasy goals.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of line that should win games for you, like Chicago, right? We talked about how like Chicago has the top line talent. They have some really good players on their top line. They don't have the depth. That's what makes Utah better than Chicago. Those are the types of games that you need your third and fourth lines to win, because like the top two lines, they might just wash out. You win those with your depth and with your third and fourth lines. Like, give me that monster line and let them score the greasy goals.
And maybe that's what Turney was suggesting. Maybe that's what he was suggesting, that he didn't get the depth scoring he needed. But he hasn't gotten any scoring that he has needed. 5 goals through 3 games. 5 goals. I don't want to repeat it, but I'm going to. The only team with less is the Buffalo Sabres, and they are awful. They are truly awful. We don't want to continue to be in that conversation. If we can't right the ship at home, it is going to be a very, very rough start. The last thing I want to talk about, greasy goals. When we talked, became the buzzword, and Dylan Guenther scores that overtime winner. That was on Twitter, at least, expressed as a greasy goal. And I want to reiterate, I don't think that's what a greasy goal is. That was a speed and finesse goal. Just because he scored it close to the net does not mean that it was a greasy goal. He outmaneuvered the Nashville defenders. He outskilled them. He did everything he needed to do and had a great goal. That's not a greasy goal, in my opinion. Anything within 5 feet of the net is not a greasy goal.
I missed. Are you talking about Dylan Guenther's OT winner?
Yes.
I believe what might be leading people to say that was a greasy, quote unquote, greasy goal is because he sort of lost control of the puck there. It kind of had to kick it with his skate to regain control of it. And it wasn't just complete fancy. It was just like, I kind of lost it, and then he gathers it and kicks it, and like it didn't look nice and clean and pretty. And I don't think that's what Turney is talking about when he says greasy goals, but I can understand why people might be saying that, because it wasn't the pretty finesse one-timer. It's not like where he comes across the blue line and kind of dangles it, weaves and beats a couple of players and then goes 5-hole. Like it didn't look as clean. So
maybe that's what it was. It wasn't a Dylan Guenther one-timer from this face-off dot, and so then it was a greasy. Any goal not scored from the face-off dot for Guenther is a greasy goal. But I thought the footwork just made it even more of a skill play. But I think like maybe he does think that anything within 5 feet of the net is a greasy goal, no matter how it happens. But we'll move on from greasy goals. And defensively, I think we're playing well. I'm going to say that I was completely wrong against Simashev. He has proved me wrong that he is at least a serviceable defenseman. I'm not saying that he's elite. I'm not saying he's great, but I'm saying he is playing good enough to continue playing in the NHL. He had that one glaring mistake. He kind of pulled a Lamoureux, had to come back. It was a soft penalty, but a penalty nonetheless, because he was completely out of position. He chased a puck that he had no business chasing, left his man. I don't know, like there was no excuse for it, but those are the rookie mistakes that are going to happen. As long as he minimizes them to 1 or 2 a game, he's going to be okay. Unless he does what Lamoureux does and has those 1 or 2 rookie mistakes constantly lead to penalties as he recovers. That's where it's going to be a concern.
I will say the difference that I've seen between him and Lamoureux is that he'll give you that, but he also will give you that play on the boards where he sticks with Connor Bedard. And like Connor Bedard's one of the fastest skaters who can change direction on a dime. And he does that on the boards, and Simashev just sticks with him and winds up with a takeaway. Like, that's the bright spot. That's what you see from him that you weren't seeing from Lamoureux last season. Like rookie blunders, like the mistakes, a penalty here or there. You give us that type of defensive play 5 times. Like that's the difference that at least through 3 games I've seen with Simishev as opposed to Mavlam, that ceiling seems to be a lot higher on the defensive side.
Absolutely. And the defensive side needs to step up because, once again, no fault to him, but once again, Sean Durzi is out for an extended period of time. We assume at least 4 weeks. There were some reports today saying that his recovery is going well and that he could be back significantly sooner. I still think that's like the 4-week mark, though. And it's not like he could be out 4 to 6 type thing. Like, it's going to be closer to exactly 4 weeks. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, he's going to recover sooner, so he's going to be back in 4 games, like Durzi, which means Simishev is going to get more ice time, especially because with Durzi out, Turini finally went back to the standard 12 forwards, 6 defensemen.
I was going to say maybe it's sort of a blessing in disguise that we lost a defenseman because now we can't run with the 7 defenseman lineup.
I hate to lose Durzi for that, but hey, anything for the cause, because Turini, it's dumb. It's a stupid system. There's a reason that nobody runs it. Nobody does it. They're situational at best.
He's kind of been forced out of it in two of our 3 games because Olimata went down and only played 1 shift against, was it Colorado that he only played 1 shift against?
Yep.
So we only played really 6 defensemen in that game. And now with Durzi out, he's being forced to only play 6. Take that as the hockey gods telling you, stop running 7 defensive lineups and just go with 6 the way that God intended. And stop pissing off the hockey gods because you got one of our guys injured. So just do it the way that it's supposed to be done.
Well, speaking of sacrificing people to the hockey gods, the fans are very much ready to sacrifice Ian Cole to the hockey gods. Ian Cole is, well, he's being Ian Cole, right? He's blocking shots. He's playing okay defense, but he's taking penalties, and sometimes he is finding himself out of possession, just like Simishev is when he's supposed to be the role model for Dmitry. That's what Turini does, right? Turini pairs Ian Cole with rookie defensemen. That's his MO. That's what he loves to do. Does he ever steer away from Ian Cole? Does he ever say, hey, Ian Cole, why don't you sit this one out, my man? Does Sean Durzi's injury force him to continue to play Ian Cole? Or do you think there is a world where over the next 5 games, Ian Cole takes a seat in the press box?
Who are we playing instead of Ian Cole?
DeSimone, I would assume. Unless you call someone up.
DeSimone is fine. I like DeSimone. I guess maybe you take it on a game-to-game basis and decide what you need more. Like, if you need more of a skilled defenseman, you go with DeSimone. If you need more of a, like, hard-nosed, set the tone, block some shots kind of guy, then you roll with Ian Cole. That can be just like a game-by-game decision. You don't have to make that decision for long stretches of time. Just maybe treat it like your goalies and give him 2 starts to every one for DeSimone. But yeah, I think using Durzi probably forces him into playing him at least half the time. But Cole, I mean, we don't need to break it down right now. We can wait until we get closer to the trade deadline. But Ian Cole might be a guy that you can move at the deadline if he continues to just be a guy who goes to the box. But I do think, and I've been one of the most vocal critics about him because, like, his skill is going to the box, but he does provide something to the team. Teams do need veteran leadership. They do need a guy who's willing to drop to the ice and block shots. Like that is a skill that's needed on an NHL team. So he might not be a fan favorite because of it. And it's not going to show up on any box scores. And the hate probably is a little overblown.
It's the penalty kill is playing well, and he's a big part of it. Like, he can't be faulted for the penalty kill's poor performance when he's in the box. He can be blamed for being in the box and giving up a goal, but he is not leading the league in shot blocks right now. Excuse me. In fact, Mikhail Sergachev has more blocked shots than him at 10. Let me see. Ian Cole only has 6, 5 of which I believe came in the game against Colorado. That's concerning.
So just off to a good start and then
don't quote me on
disappeared.
that, but I'm pretty sure the 5 of his 6 block shots came against Colorado because it was like, oh, this is why he's on the team. Even though he takes penalties that lead to game-winning goals, like, that's why he's on the team. But Mikhail Sergachev is doing it all. Mikhail's been, again, very consistent, but offensively we need more out of Mikhail, and that could just be the power plays woes that you're not seeing a lot of the offensive production out of him, because the power play's so poor. But yeah, we need something. Now, speaking of needing something, we'll talk about this. something that we don't like necessarily happening, but there's a lot of calls for it. Line changes, shaking up the power play lines, maybe shaking up the forward lines. Do you think for today's home game, do you think we roll the same 12 forwards, 6 defensemen out, or do you think Turney tweaks it?
I pray that he doesn't tweak anything. Just let these guys play together with who they're playing with. Just let them build some cohesion. Let them get used to playing with each other. Let them, especially like with a line that like Paterk is on, he's new to the team. You have to build that chemistry. Like just playing in the preseason and playing in camp, that's not going to do it. Let them play together. Let them build chemistry. Roll with it. Stop tweaking things every 3, 4, 5 games. And, oh, well, this isn't working. It hasn't worked in a couple of the games. Let's switch it up. Like, let it start to work, right? Calgary in their first 3 games gave up 3 goals to Edmonton, 5 goals to the Canucks, and 4 goals to the Blues. So you can score on them, at least so far this season. Maybe that's all it needed. Like, get home, get in your own barn, play a team that to this point is giving up an average of 4.5 goals per game, and let it happen. Let them grow together. Let them improve together, and let them do it on their own instead of trying to force it and just trying to ram a square peg into a round hole. Like, let it happen and let Calgary be the team that it happens again. Come home, score against a team that's been scored on all season so far. Do it that way. Don't mix it up.
Yep. Nope. I am in agreement with you there. I do not want to see line changes. If it happens, I want to see it on the power play, but it's not what people think, right? When they say changes to the power play, what do they think? They want Nick Schmaltz gone, right? They want Nick Schmaltz gone from everywhere. But I wouldn't mind swapping Cooley and Hayton, right? And then maybe you let Hayton be the big body in front. You move Nick Schmaltz away from being in the middle of the 4 penalty killers, put him for some cycle chances and some puck movement, and park Barrett Hayton in front of the net, a place that he's pretty comfortable with, especially on the power play. Do that, because you'll also see that on the power play unit too, where Cooley is a guy who can play in front of the net, but he doesn't. On power play 1, Cooley doesn't play in front of the net, but when Cooley's on power play 2, he does. And that's a system thing. That's not Nick Schmaltz saying, Cooley, I got this. That's the special teams coach, whether that's Turney's influence or not. That's a special teams coach saying, this is how I want my power play 1 done. And then power play 2, you can run it a little bit differently. So make that switch. And maybe if you've got Cooley and Paterka, maybe you make that power play 2 a little bit more dangerous, because right now that power play 2 has no teeth to it whatsoever. You got Paterka and that's it.
It's no good.
Like, yeah, you got no teeth whatsoever to power play 2, and power play 1 doesn't look scary.
And I also don't like the idea of one player playing in this role on power play 1 and then playing in a different role on power play 2. Like, if you're playing with these guys, you do this, but if you play with these guys, you do that. They're like, you're not focused on one goal. You're not focused on one responsibility. It's like, it's mixing it up. Like, just put them in the same on one power play unit or on both power play. If you want them on both, put them on both. I don't care. Like, whatever you want to do, but have him playing the same role. Let him be in that role. Let that be his role. Like, stop back and forth depending on what line it is.
I've been critical of Turney for not making adjustments, but in his defense, if we're talking about tweaking power play systems, one thing we did notice last season. So first 10, 15, 20 games or so, one thing that we loved to do was long stretch passes. Out of our defensive zone to the next blue line, those long stretch passes hoping to hit a guy in stride, which you have to have a guy cheating to do that. We loved doing it, and it almost never worked, but we loved doing it. It was like our entire offensive identity was these stretch passes, and then he moved away from it. And it had success away from it. So I'm not completely down on him that he can't make adjustments, good adjustments. A lot of times the adjustments, he just kind of throws it out there, but he and his coaching staff can make good adjustments because we've seen it before. And we may need to see it again, but I'm with you in 100% agreement that the lines need to stay, or they don't need to change in a lot of the ways that I've been seeing that kind of, I guess you have to decide what's your goal out of change. Is your goal just to get Keller production, and that's why you'd put him with Cooley and Gunther? Is your goal to make the team as a whole better? Does a Schmaltz and Paterka line make sense with Hayton in the middle? Paterka's so much faster than Hayton and Schmaltz. So much faster. And so it makes sense that he's with Cooley and Gunther, who especially Cooley can keep up with him in speed. And so I think that's why that line exists. And I think that's why that line will stay, much to Keller's chagrin. He's going to have to make it work again with Hayton and Schmaltz, and it has worked in the past. That line has worked. But we've got our speed line, and I just don't know if Peterka has any other speed other than just full throttle. That's why I'd almost rather, I hate to say this, but I'd almost rather move Gunther down and move Keller up if you wanted. Because then at least you have Peterka, who has all the speed in the world and still has Cooley to go with him in the speed department. Because if you move Peterka down with Schmaltz and Hayton just to get Keller some production, I think you're going to end up hurting all three of the second line. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm wrong. I did say that Schmaltz needs that elite guy to set up, because if Keller's not going to be the shoot first guy, maybe he wants to go back to the just get assists and then on the power play, he'll score goals. Maybe that's where he's comfortable in being. Then you maybe have to split him up, because then you have two guys who naturally want to pass the puck, and Barrett Hayton's not in a position to capitalize on that. So we'll see. I'm curious to see what turn he does.
Kill me if I suggest trading Nick Schmaltz for somebody
Nope.
who fits on that first line a little bit better.
Hit me with it, but I want to hear a good trade, and I want to hear a player's name.
Oh, I literally just had the idea. Like, I was like, ooh, will kill me if I suggest trading Nick Schmaltz. I have not put an ounce of thought into who that trade would be for. So I'm not going to float anything out there. I don't know who's available. I don't know. We're probably going to have to wait until later in the season, that maybe there's a team that thought they might be able to compete and they just get off to a terrible start and they're like, okay, this is going to be our year. Maybe they hold a fire sale and they get rid of somebody that we can dangle Schmaltz for. But I'm not going to toss out any ideas, because I haven't put any research or thought into who's available or what the salaries would be or anything like that. If you mentioned one in the offseason, I remember you saying somebody that you wanted them to go after, but I cannot for the life of me remember who it was.
I wanted Ryan Donato on the team.
Donato, that's who it was.
Yeah, but I don't know that maybe Schmaltz Donato is a straight up trade, but you kind of get the same player for that. I just wanted him as our 2 or 3 seat, but that I want to let the Mammoth faithful know, for as much as I'll fight you to the death about Nick Schmaltz, and I'll defend him to the death with my dying breath, if you give me a trade that works, I will say yes. But that's the one thing nobody could give me. When I say you want to trade Schmaltz, okay, what do you want to trade him for? Who are you replacing him with? And now what people are kind of saying, I think they're hinting at it, is you bring up Daniil Boot. I'm sorry, Daniil Boot doesn't replace Nick Schmaltz. Not right now. No. Not right now he doesn't. No. Maybe in 2, 3, 4 years he might, but you're trading away Nick Schmaltz just so you can get another rookie. And at that point, let's tank for McKenna, man. Let's just tank for McKenna.
I think one of the reasons why you see so many, especially Utah fans, clamoring for the rookies, like we want to see Boo, we want to see everybody, all of our rookies, we want to see them make the team. Like, I think it ties back to a little bit of this being a basketball market. Mm-hmm. And when you draft a player, you see them on the team next season. Like the Jazz just drafted Ace Bailey. He's playing in right now the summer league. It's not even the preseason yet. Well, no, it's not the preseason. It's not the summer league either. Anyways,
it's whatever.
You can tell how much out of love I've fallen with NBA basketball, and especially the Utah Jazz. But they're seeing him play, and he's going to be on the roster. He's going to be a main fixture of the Jazz roster, and he's a key piece of their future, and they're going to see him right away. So I think a lot of like NBA fans and Jazz fans are like, why can't we see our rookies? Like, see them. Let's put them out there, see what they can do. Like, the NHL is just, it's a different animal. It's a different breed of sport. Like, you're not going to see the rookies that you draft for 2 or 3 seasons. Like, we're not seeing Ginla anytime soon.
Ginla, yep.
Yeah.
I think even if Desnoyers was healthy, I don't think he makes the team. And that is something that this market is going to have to come to terms with, is taking that time, because we really did get spoiled too with Cooley and Gunther, who made quick jumps and have been very good in their jumps. So it's kind of been like, well, what do you mean they don't make jumps? Look at Cooley, look at Gunther, well, he got kind of spoiled there. And I will say this particular year, a lot of rookies are starting and a lot of rookies are getting their first points, and it's super cool. So maybe we're seeing a shift in the NHL, and maybe things are going younger. But historically speaking, and trend wise, and for how GMBA has built this team, it has taken longer for the team to get there.
Yeah, I would say Keller and Cooley are more the exception rather than the rule. You're
Absolutely.
going to see your rookies go to the KHL, the ECHL, the AHL. They're going to play down and work their way up. And usually, more often than not, it's beneficial. You saw Doan start the season on the roster last year, look really bad, get sent down to the AHL, get some playing time, get some confidence in his game, and come back up, and he's a completely different player. And now, a little bit due to injuries, but now he's on the top line in Buffalo. Like a guy who got sent down last year is on the top line and the worst team in the NHL, but he's still on the top line because of the work that he got at the lower level, and that's just what it is with an NHL team.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. These are some big games coming up. Big games, 4-game homestand. We go back to the newly renovated Delta Center for regular season action tonight. It's going to be hype. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere, but it's against Calgary. And then we got San Jose, and then we got Boston, and then we've got the Avalanche. The 4 home games, 3 winnable games. Boston's playing great, though, but Boston was one of those teams where you're like, Boston's going to suck. Well, they haven't sucked,
Yeah,
but you've got
but
2 at least winnable games against
I was
Calgary
going to
and
say
San Jose.
Boston is 3-1 right now. 2 of their wins are Chicago and Buffalo. That might just be fool's gold and an early record with 2 teams. Like they played Chicago, who's not great, and they played Buffalo, who's the worst team in the NHL right now, and they lost to Tampa Bay. So maybe they're not as good as their record would tell you. I mean, they are still the same team that went 33, 39, and 10 last season. So it's a team that you I'm not going to say should win. I don't think the NHL has any games that are like should wins. It's not like the NBA where there's just some completely trash teams. And in a sport where these games are so low scoring and like you can have like a goalie can just go nutso mode and block everything and turn into a wall. Like you can lose games to the bad teams in this league. So I guess I won't say should win, but you're favored in
Absolutely.
2 of those. And I don't know about Calgary, but it wouldn't surprise me for Utah to be favored, at least books wise, in that game also. So like that's 3 out of 4 games that you're at least going to be favored to win, and you better hope that you do it, because that leads us right into that stretch of games that is going to be extremely difficult, and you have to enter into that stretch on a high note. Like if you've already got off to a bad start, if you continue that bad start through these next 3 games, it is going to be extremely, extremely difficult to right that ship in that stretch of games from the 21st all the way to the November 5th. It is going to be almost impossible to right the ship in that stretch of games.
Yeah, you got to just bring your A game. And one thing I'm concerned about, I will say, it seems, small sample size, 3 games, it seems like we've exercised the second period scaries. We have gotten rid of the second period demons, but have we exercised they tend not to play very well at the Delta Center demons. They were not the greatest home team, especially early in the season last year. It's very hard to come by some wins, but if you don't get some wins, it's maybe too early to freak out at 3 games, but before you know it, we're at 10 games. And is that too early to freak out? Then you're at 20 games. And then is that too early to freak out? And then before you know, you're at 40 when you're already like, well, shit, it's gone south. Like it's freak out mode, And
Yeah.
got to get it. But prediction, I will be there in the barn on Wednesday. I've got us at a 5-3 win. Very similar to last year. I got us beating Calgary 5-3 for the home opener. What's your prediction?
That sounds about right. That's about what Calgary's given up. I'll say 4-2, but I will make a prediction that by the time we're in the studio next Tuesday, let me double check my head. Yep. We're going to get all those games, and we're going to have the Colorado game's probably going to be while we record. So the next 3 games, we're getting 6 points. We're not losing. We're not losing in overtime. We're not getting out of there with 5 points. We're getting 6 points in these next 3 games. We are going 3-0.
That would be incredible.
We should.
That would be incredible because we'd right the ship, and everything we're talking about right now, all the freak out, all the panic, everything goes right out the window.
Out the window.
I don't sign Turney's extension yet, but I stopped saying that he should be fired unless he does something stupid in those 3 games, which is, I'm not going to put it past him. But it's going to be exciting. It always is. It's going to be a great season, and we're just getting started. That's what's exciting, Dustin, is we are just getting started.
Veggie better start all 3 of these games.
I would love
Veggie
to see
starts
it.
all 3 of these freaking games.
I would love to see it.
He has
I want to see him start all 4.
There's
all
no
4 home
excuse.
games. All 4 home games for the Veggie Heads in the Delta Center. Get it on the bingo cards. We are going to get Veggie
There's
Heads.
a day in between each one of these games. There's no back-to-backs. There is a full day of rest in between each one of these games, and then you can start Advantage Edge. God, I just noticed.
Nah, he's going to do 2-1-1. He's going to do 2-1-1. He's going to Vanacek's going to start Boston.
After that Colorado game, 8 of our next 9 are on the road, man.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
You have to right the ship. I mean, granted, we are 1 year and 3 games into this franchise's history. These 3 games might be the most important stretch of 3 games in this franchise's history. You have to right the ship right here. You have to.
The team's not built to climb out of the cellar if they're that far into it. They are built to claw their way at the ground level and hope that they reach their ceiling, because we are so far from seeing this team's ceiling. We are right now seeing this team at its worst. It's just a matter of, can they right the ship? Is this just a slump? We saw slumps last season, and they were horrible.
It's possible.
But we saw some slump busters too. It just doesn't happen in this.
Utah played great against Colorado. And I nobody's going to want to hear it. They played great, especially defensively against Chicago. Like, they got off to a really slow, really listless start. The first period was terrible, but Chicago had 12 shots on goal by the time they scored their second goal. Like, they were limiting Chicago. They were playing great on the defensive side. They were winning most of the faceoffs. Like, they played really well against Chicago. They just couldn't find the back of the net with their shots. They had 22 shots on goal, and only one of them found the back of the net. You're going to expect, even with the best goalies, if you get 22 shots on goal, to at least score 2, right?
I looked it up because Adrian Denny threw out a question about what the fewest shots we had. We've allowed as a team, and it was 13 versus 14. But we're looking at the other 14 game, and it was a loss to Detroit. Detroit scored 5 goals on 14 shots. But outside of that, when the Utah Hockey Club and the Utah Mammoth held their opponent to 20 shots or fewer, we were 8-2. One of those was, of course, the 14-shot loss that we had. So just don't hold them to 14. Hold them to anything under 20, but not 14
13,
exactly.
15.
Yeah,
no 14.
Because it was great. When we held them to 20 or less shots, we would almost always win those games. And so you've got to do it again. Play that defensive style. Offensive's got to find the back of the net. Nick Schmaltz, you got to find the back of the net, my man. Keep shooting. But I can only defend you for so long, man. You got me by the short and curlies, and I can't keep doing it. Dustin, do you have any closing thoughts?
Don't fan on your shots, and everybody, every single player on this roster, just shoot the damn puck. No more trying to get fancy. No more making the extra pass. No more like, I've got a good one, but Cooley's coming up on the right side, and he can take a great one. Just shoot the puck. Because you're going to score more, and especially if Bear wants greasy goals, put one on net and let Cooley crash the net to put the rebound in. That's going to wind up with more goals, in my mind, than trying to make that extra pass. Just shoot. Good things happen when you put pucks on net. Just shoot. Relax. Zen. Enjoy my podcast incense. Relax. Shoot. That's all.
Fans, we're going to be there for the next 4 games. It is our responsibility, our duty to yell, shoot. Remember what I said last season? The team may not know that they can shoot the puck, and it's our responsibility to tell them.
We have to tell them.
It's going to be incredible, an incredible atmosphere. I can't wait to see the Delta Center rocking with all of you Mammoth fans. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Dustin, thanks so much for joining me. Big 4 games. Let's get some wins. Tusk up and have a good night.